This is Chihara-san, also known as a landmine because nobody in the school has any idea about what goes inside her head. Sitting right next to her is our protagonist Kuroki, who looks like a long-lost cousin of Saitama with social anxiety as hardcore as my love for big booty Latinas. It was his first class of the spring semester and he was hoping for a fresh start, but he had no idea that from this day onwards, his school life won't be the same. Chihara-san has porcelain skin, red eyes and an expressionless face, the combination of which screamed scary, but seeing her up close, she truly seemed peculiar. He had always heard rumors about her because the name Chihara-san was always the topic of discussion among schoolboys. To some she was a total cutie pie while others thought she had some type of supernatural charm. That's when Kuroki realized that Chihara-san was like P. Diddy, popular but dangerous at the same time. Sitting beside her, he couldn't imagine himself ever talking to her. Then suddenly she looked in his direction and this sent a chill down our boy's spine. Was she offended by him staring at her? Using the bombastic side-eye technique, he noticed that she won't stop looking at him. Did he look at her for too long? Kuroki was trying his best to avoid eye contact, but Chihara-san's gaze was so strong that it felt as if his skull was being pierced by a literal arrow. Bro was so scared that he started apologizing to his mama because he might not come back home today. Kuroki thought it would be best to just say sorry and diffuse the situation, so he called out her name, but she had already turned his chair towards him and was giving him the 1,000-yard death stare. He started panicking because at this point, even Bro knew he was absolutely cooked. He could feel Chihara-san slowly getting closer to him, but then he caught a glimpse of her boings and started panicking because she might have noticed him staring at her personalities. Kuroki started questioning all his life choices and wondered, what does she want from him? Maybe this is a new form of bullying that he isn't aware of. Then he remembered someone saying that if Chihara-san gets a hold of you, bad things start happening. Kuroki panicked because he had nowhere to go. She was still looking at him and he wasn't aware of the proper response to his current situation. Then it happened. She grabbed him and asked Kuroki to show it to her. He gave her the textbook and pointed out that she was quite close. She thanked him and slowly went back to her seat. The situation was too intense for our boy and he ended up wetting his pants and his back. He didn't know anything about Chihara-san and wondered if she really is a landmine just like the rumors say. After the class, she gave him a gift with a kawaii smile on her face and thanked him for his help. It was a Japanese history book and this confused Kuroki. That's when the teacher started explaining scope of trigonometric functions and everything went back to normal. After a while, our boy looked at Chihara-san, but right then the teacher asked him to explain the question on page 15. But Kuroki was too surprised to answer because Chihara-san was sleeping with her eyes wide open. After the class, he couldn't focus on the lesson and spent the whole time observing Chihara-san because she kept looking at her wrist. She focused on the wrist and gave a disturbing smile which frightened Kuroki. He then heard some girls talking about Chihara-san who thought she was crazy. One of them was like, maybe she is in her emo phase because she is into blood-related stuff. Meanwhile, Kuroki thought it was easy to imagine this type of crazy behavior coming from Chihara-san as her looks perfectly match her actions. After the class, Kuroki was walking through the school hallway with the expression of someone who was holding a big fat dump up his anus. Turns out he was stopped by Chihara-san, which was stressing him out. He mustered up the courage to call her name and she extended her hand, holding a large pack of gum. At first, this confused him, but then he realized maybe she was offering him some of that gum. So, like a normal person, he asked if that was for him. But then she suddenly started munching and this confused Kuroki even more so. He just stood there with his dead fish expression. Chihara-san once again extended her hand and offered our boy her chewing gum. It was his first time in a situation like this and he didn't want to be rude, so he simply took that piece of gum and thanked her. After taking a bite, Kuroki remembered how he used to eat this particular chewing gum when he was little and this flavor felt very nostalgic to him. Hearing that, Chihara-san smiled and for a moment I totally forgot that I was reading a rom-com manga. Then she turned around and waved Kuroki goodbye, leaving him in a very optimistic state because he thinks Chihara-san is a very interesting person. Then see her in a classroom where she was looking at her wrist. Turns out she is just like Komi-san for real and can't communicate her feelings because she wanted to make new friends this semester. The following day after classes, Kuroki was in the restroom and realized that his school life was advancing at a pace that felt unreal. He had always been afraid of flashy-looking people because he felt like they would hate him for apparent reason. When he left the bathroom thinking about Chihara-san, she was standing outside and greeted him as if waiting for him. When Kuroki asked why she was here, the girl replied that she had seen him going to the restroom and suggested they could walk home together. They stared at each other for a while and Chihara-san seemed a bit anxious because Kuroki wasn't saying anything. But in reality, his brain's processing power was slower than my internet speed. To confirm, he asked if she really wanted to go home with him, not believing his situation at all. Kuroki was experiencing various emotions at the same time, but his face could only express doubt and confusion. Upon asking why, Chihara-san's eyes widened, leaving her speechless at our boy's reaction, and decided to go alone, thinking she had been rejected. However, the author came in clutch and drew a panel of Kuroki asking Chihara-san to wait, so the plot could progress. He asked if she commuted by train and Chihara-san confirmed it. Since he is in the same boat as hers, they started walking to the station. Chihara-san suddenly opened her mouth and by the looks of it, she was experiencing a system failure due to happiness for the first time. She then caught herself lacking and returned to her normal self, telling Kuroki to continue walking. After seeing her various expressions, our boy figured that maybe Chihara-san isn't as scary as he thought. At the parking area of the school, Kuroki asked her if she can ride a bike, since there are a lot of people who ride their bikes to the station and it's faster that way. But when Chihara-san revealed that she can't, this got our boy excited because he can't ride a bike as well. Kuroki was surprised by his own spontaneity because he had acted as if they were already close friends. Chihara-san heard Kuroki and smiled while making our boy embarrassed because she said that she could ride a bike either. While walking home, the silence hanging between them was deafening because they had no topic of common interest. Kuroki was feeling very awkward in this situation, so he decided to break the ice. But he noticed Chihara-san squinting hard as if she saw one of my Gunner subscribers IRL. Kuroki couldn't figure out why her expression looked that way and assumed she was really pissed off at something. But that's not even his concern right now. Our boy Kuroki was at a point where he could wet his pants at any moment, but then Chihara-san pointed at something in the distance. She was looking at a traditional Japanese bakery and thought the two massive cushions were cats pilling on top of each other. Kuroki then asked if her eyes were okay, judging by the contact lenses she wore. Realizing she has weak eyesight, he offered his glasses to her, revealing those objects weren't cats at all. Chihara-san put the glasses on and Kuroki's heart skipped a beat for no reason. Maybe he is into girls who wear glasses. Realizing he was right, Chihara-san removed the glasses and started blushing from embarrassment. To make the girl feel less embarrassed, Kuroki told her that he also has trouble seeing the objects that are far away. But she just looked at Kuroki with a wide-eyed expression and told him to just forget everything. As they were walking, our boy thought Chihara-san looked very cute, but once again he caught himself lacking and slapped his own face to snap himself back to reality. They kept walking and Kuroki asked if she liked cats, but Chihara-san definitely didn't want to talk about the incident anymore and told him to forget about it. They made it to the train station and it was time for them to part ways as each would take a different line. But before that, Chihara-san asked our boy to wait a moment. She lowered her bag and took out a marker, making Kuroki very nervous. The girl then asked our boy to extend his arm forward, and he started pissing his pants because he thought she might do some emo stuff to his arm. Turns out she just wanted to drop her line ID, "Love Cat Mai." As she was about to board her train, Chihara-san expressed that she wants to talk to Kuroki outside the school as well. The thought of getting a girl contact info took over our boy's brain and he kept thinking about it until he reached home. Upon opening the front door, with a blank expression face, he told his mom he had gotten Chihara-san's line ID and she congratulated him. In the school hallway, a girl sucking on a lollipop seemed to be waiting for someone. Upon seeing Chihara-san, she pounced on her and asked what she was doing. Before she could answer, the girl then asked if she was free and invited Chihara-san to her class. Turns out she is a friend of Chihara-san and her name is Chinatsu. She tells her that her nail paint sucks and paints them black, saying it looks cute on her. Meanwhile, Chihara-san was trying her best to stay still because she was feeling very ticklish. While doing her nails, Chinatsu starts talking about her love life and reveals that she bagged herself a new boyfriend. He is a sweet guy who never gets annoyed by her, she says, and then thanks Chihara-san for always listening to her troubles. After she was done with the nail paint, she asks Chihara-san if she can take a picture of her nails. She didn't mind, so Chinatsu took a picture and sent it to her boyfriend. The man replied in a record time of 7 seconds, and she proudly smiled because her boyfriend pays attention to her. Confused, Chihara-san looked at her with dead fish expression, and it was clear that something was bugging her. So she asked Chinatsu why did she send her boyfriend that text message. She replied that they both liked to share what they were doing, and this made Chihara-san realize that sending messages brought people closer. That evening Kuroki was watching TV when he suddenly got a notification on his phone. It was a text from Chihara-san, and this made him nervous. He froze on the spot and didn't know how to respond. She had sent him a picture of noodle bowl, and this confused him. He paused for a moment and responded by telling her that he had deep-fried mackerel for dinner. He was nervous at first, but then he took a leap of faith and pressed the send button. Chihara-san was dazed after receiving a reply, and her mom yelled at her to take a bath while it was hot. On his way to school, Kuroki heard two boys talking about Chihara-san, which was just a normal routine for him at this point. He agreed with some of the things those boys were saying because it's easy to take her actions out of context due to her looks. Surprisingly, Chihara-san never cared about the rumors and didn't give any attention to the speculations about herself. So he decided to become her PR manager and told them that Chihara-san isn't as weird as people make her to be. Saying this, he left the chat and walked away, which confused them. Little did Kuroki know that they were only talking about Chihara-san because she fell off a bike while practicing on her way to school. Curious, they followed Kuroki in the school hallway and asked what kind of relationship he had with Chihara-san. Since he barely talked to anyone and decided to speak up when they were talking about Chihara-san made them curious. One of the boys was in total gooner mode and asked what Chihara-san is like, since he was expecting her to be a dami mommy type. Kuroki paused for a moment because if he told them that they go home together, a weird rumor might spread about them. So he told them about the time when Chihara-san offered her a long piece of gum, except he forgot to mention the gum part. The boys freaked out and imagined that Kuroki had received a long sword from Chihara-san or something like that. They were trying to understand what the two were doing because despite sitting close to each other, they were worlds apart, and Kuroki agreed with them. A perfectly ordinary introvert guy and a Landmine Girl combo didn't make any sense. If that wasn't bad enough, Kuroki decides to reveal to the boys that Chihara-san likes booty. Once again he forgot to give them the context and their imagination was running wild. In short, he thought Chihara-san is really funny. Upon looking at their expressionless face, he asked them what's wrong. They were at a loss for words and decided it was better not to ask anything else about this subject. Kuroki felt really embarrassed because the truth of the matter is that our boy sucks at telling stories. He then thought about Chihara-san and realized that he hadn't given her anything in return for the gum he received. While walking through the school hallway, he wondered if she might find such an action gross, but he didn't want to ignore the girl's kindness. So he went to look for her in a classroom where she usually goes during break time. Instead of Chihara-san, he finds Chinatsu, who asks our boy what he's looking for. Since Kuroki feared flashy-looking people, he quietly asked her if she know where Chihara-san is. Chinatsu informed him that Chihara-san was in the infirmary due to a headache, so our boy thanked her and left the room. As he left, she judged him for acting like a grade schooler. Meanwhile, Chihara-san was sitting in the infirmary, resting with an ice pack on her head which hurt terribly from the fall she took on the bike earlier today. A few moments later, we see a nurse applying a band-aid on Kuroki's forehead. She informs him that he is fine despite having lost a lot of blood, and he thanks her for patching him up. Turns out after visiting Chihara-san, Kuroki was going back to his class when he bumped into the shoulder of a judo club member in the hallway. Due to his frail body, he flew into the air and smashed his head into the window. Luckily, that guy was a decent human being and ended up carrying him to the nurse's office. But before leaving, he handed Kuroki his card as if he was a hitman and told our boy to contact him if he needed anything. The nurse decided to take the medical note to the next class's teacher, but Kuroki insisted he could do it himself. However, the nurse decided that it was best for him to stay here because his head must be spinning right now. While staying there, he got worried about the math class and didn't notice Chihara-san silently slipping through the curtains. Suddenly, he looked at the curtains which quickly closed as if they had never been moved. He got up and stood still in front of the couch because he could sense someone's presence in the room and this was freaking him out. He looked at the curtain and closed his eyes with a sigh of relief, unaware that Chihara-san was secretly watching him. She then got right up to him and whispered in his ear,
"Did you wash your ass today?"
For a moment Kuroki's soul left his body and he trembled like a church bell on Sunday. She asked what happened to him and he told her that he had hit his head on his way back to class. Curious, Chihara-san wanted to know if it still hurts when touched, and he said it doesn't. To confirm his statement, she touched his head and this made his heart skip a beat, so he started blushing. Feeling awkward, Kuroki pushed Chihara-san and asked if she came here because she was sick. She confirmed it because a cat had denied her affection and left a scratch on the nose. Suddenly, they heard footsteps in the hallway and got startled. The nurse came in to inform Kuroki that she had already talked to his math teacher. But surprisingly, he wasn't in the office and she assumed Kuroki already went back to the class. But in reality, him and Chihara-san were hiding behind the curtains as if it was a horror movie sequence. Before she could discover them, another teacher distracted the nurse and called her to the teacher's room for a meeting. Slowly, she lowered her mouth to the level of Kuroki's neck, and this left him speechless. After those two left the office, she pushed him to the bed and wrapped herself in the curtain, before saying goodnight to Kuroki. At first, he was confused only to realize that Chihara-san was actually concerned about him, and this warmed his heart. Kuroki then looked at the pillow because knew it would be difficult to sleep now since Chihara-san's perfume still lingered in the air, and at his age, that was a trigger. Chihara-san was doing her morning routine and got ready for school. When she was about to leaving home, her father asked if she hadn't forgotten anything and she assured her she didn't. But when she reached the train station, people were looking at her as if she was a rare animal species. When Chihara-san looked down to see if something was wrong, she realized she was wearing a pair of very eccentric shoes, which got everybody's attention. She panicked and didn't know what to do in this situation. If she went back home, she is bound to be late from the class. So she decided to just go with the flow and went to school. At school, a teacher was greeting the students, wishing them a good morning. But when she noticed Chihara-san in her eccentric shoes, she told her to wait for a moment. She turned around with her signature dead fish expression and prepared herself for a scolding. The new teacher paused because she couldn't let the students wear such flashy shows. But then she tried to understand Chihara-san's reason for doing so and ultimately decided to let her go, saying she understood everything. During their PE class, she looked into her locker and noticed that she picked up the wrong jersey. She must have slipped it in while folding laundry because she was running on autopilot mode. But then she thought of Chinatsu, telling her that even when things go south, she should remain confident. So like a total diva, she put on the flashy jersey and headed to the gym class without worries. But the excess of confidence didn't work out as she imagined and she was called to the staff office where she was instructed to write an apology letter. During the lunch break, she got a notification on the phone which shocked her. It was a text from her dad and he sent her a picture of her bento box lying in front of the main door. Chihara-san then checked her pocket and realized she only had 30 yen. So she was only able to buy 3 candies for herself. This became another reason for gossip, but Chihara-san didn't seem to care at all. She was just enjoying the tasty candy, but in reality, she was starving. Suddenly, Kuroki noticed her and asked if she always eats candies for lunch. He apologized if he misunderstood something and offered her a rice ball. He explained that he had 2 and his mom had made it with leftovers from yesterday's dinner, but they still taste good. He couldn't tell if she liked them or not. But she told our boy that she didn't like them, she loved them. While eating his own rice ball, he noticed Chihara-san's shoes and thought they were really cool. During the English class, the teacher asked the students to get into so they could read together, and since Chihara-san only knew Kuroki, she immediately thought of him, only to turn around and find him pre-booked by other classmates. This left her devastated as she didn't have another partner for the exercise. Suddenly, Chihara-san had a demonic aura around her and Kuroki immediately sensed it. So he turned around and asked if she was alright. He nervously asked if she wanted to be partners for the reading exercise, and that sounded like word of salvation for her. She was genuinely happy that Kuroki came up to her and asked. But since she was taking a while to respond, our boy assumed she was already paired up with someone and apologized, but she replied that she didn't have anyone and willing to read with him. When then see Kuroki outside his home as he about to buy a cheesecake for her younger sister's birthday. But there he notices Chihara-san as well, who he had no idea she was being noticed by someone. Oh boy was shocked since it was his first time seeing her outside the school premise. He involuntarily stepped away, pondering whether or not to go talk to her. But in the end, he decided it was best to not interfere with her private life. So Kuroki went on his way to take care of his errands, but this time, it was Chihara-san who noticed him, and before she could call out to him, a man interrupted her and asked for a moment of her attention. It was a photographer who asked permission to take some pictures of her. She agreed and started posing, but the cameraman internally dying of cringe and preferred if she didn't pose. After finishing his errands, Kuroki once again noticed Chihara-san and decided to approach her. But then he noticed a little girl was crying next to him and our boy couldn't ignore her. Chihara-san noticed the kid as well and wanted to help her, but she knew that her scary expression would only make the situation worse since it happened many times in the past. Kuroki sat on the ground and tried to get information about little girl's mother while she was eating a cream puff. Suddenly, Chihara-san appeared behind our boy with a mask and the girl recognized it as Lovely Warrior. Kuroki kept trying to understand what she was doing, but it working because the little girl stopped crying and they were chatting away. After a while, the little girl's mother appeared and took her daughter away, while Kuroki thanked Chihara-san for helping him solve the problem. But she remained quiet and placed the Lovely Warrior mask on his head. He asked how her day was and she told him about her visit to the cat cafe. It was lunchtime at school and the students were leaving to enjoy their break. Kuroki looked to the side and noticed that Chihara-san in the classroom as well, opening her bag. She took out a bento box and our boy found it curious since it was a rare sight to see her stay in the room during the lunch break. She is always with someone, usually Chinatsu, and noticed that she remains silent when she is not around. The two of them started opening their lunch boxes and made a clicking noise that perfectly synced. Seizing the opportunity, Kuroki invited her to have lunch together and he chose the school rooftop to avoid any rumors. Chihara-san said that the weather was nice and Kuroki thought it was a good opportunity to reveal that he didn't have many friends and he was happy she talked to him when they met on the street. While he was talking, Chihara-san accidentally dropped her chopsticks and they slipped down the balcony. But she didn't seem to mind and said she would eat anyway, which shocked Kuroki as he was about to see Chihara-san eat with her hands. He offered her his chopsticks since he hadn't used them, but she asked if he was okay with eating by hands. Suddenly, she got an idea and proposed the idea to taking turns while eating. Kuroki covered his mouth with his hand because this idea seemed really close to an indirect kiss. He thought about flipping the chopsticks around, but that might hurt Chihara-san's feelings. Suddenly, she took the chopsticks to his bento box and he didn't know how to react. He just watched her chew the piece of meat she took from his bento box without much expression. Meanwhile, from Chihara-san's POV, she imagined Kuroki would also take food from her bento box and that would result in a great friendship. So she took an egg roll and gave it to Kuroki while he was confused. She then mentions her father and tells him that he usually makes omelette rice for her, but the portion size is usually small. Kuroki was surprised to hear that, so Chihara-san asked if he wants to try it at her place. He once again entered panic mode and froze on the spot. As usual, Kuroki messed up his response and ended up giving the wrong reply. After the school was over, Chihara-san was staring at an omelette rice sign, wishing to eat her father's version, and coincidentally, this was her father's cafeteria as well. It was 7 in the morning and Chinatsu came to Chihara-san's house since she wanted to play. With a sparkle in her eye, she was sure that she would have lots of fun using Chihara-san for a makeover session, and Chihara-san didn't complain at all since they regularly meet up and try on new clothes. The two of them gulped down some energy drinks and when it started hitting, Chihara-san told her friend was feeling ready. She went to the bathroom to prep for her makeup session and Chinatsu patiently waited for her. After the prep work was done, Chihara-san had a face mask plastered onto her and Chinatsu told her she had to leave it on for 15 minutes. When Chihara-san tried to move, Chinatsu ordered her to stay still like a mannequin. She couldn't understand what outfit she should put on her personal doll. Then she showed 2 outfits to Chihara-san and asked which one was better. Meanwhile, she was trying not to force her facial expressions because of the mask. In the end, she chose the intense-looking one and Chinatsu decided to use accessories to make it look cute. 15 minutes had passed since the application of the mask and Chihara-san removed the facial mask. Feeling rejuvenated, her friend then picked up a curler and got ready to do her hair. After the makeup session, Chinatsu was amazed at how her friend looked like a doll with porcelain skin. In the next outfit, Chihara-san looked like a royal descendant and this was making Chinatsu blush. To top it all off, she made Chihara-san look like an adorable zombie and she exploded due to overload of her cuteness. After the tiring session, they lied on the floor and Chinatsu expressed how she found everything very fun. Meanwhile, Chihara-san with her signature dead fish expression simply replied yes. If it weren't for the typhoon, they could have hung out, but in reality, Chinatsu just wanted to show everyone that she was friends with Chihara-san. Later, Chihara-san sent a photo to Kuroki, who looked shocked. To him, the makeup looked more impressive than cute, and he thought she looked like a magazine cover model. At school, the girls were gossiping about Chihara-san, and her porcelain skin, along with low body temperature, was all the rage. On the other hand, Kuroki was about to freeze to death because the wind coming through the window was stone cold. Kuroki wondered if he was the only one who felt cold, and he regretted not bringing a sweater. Luckily for him, Chihara-san closed the window and he blushed, thinking she might have closed it because of him, or perhaps she was also feeling cold. Suddenly, Chihara-san grabbed Kuroki's cheeks, the ones on the face obviously, and blew on them, which startled our boy due to her sudden action. Kuroki felt embarrassed since the entire class was watching them and the students were curious whether the two were really going to make out right here. So, Kuroki took the social cue and moved Chihara-san's hand away, but she just wanted to confirm if he was cold or not. The girl then began to pull out a blanket out of her bag and Kuroki told her he couldn't use her blanket. So she explained it was a gift that she never used, and that was even more of a reason for him not to use it. But with cold look, Chihara-san warned that he would catch a cold if he didn't cover himself. The teacher then entered the classroom and announced the class was about to begin. We then see Kuroki with Chihara-san's blanket, in which had kittens embroidered all over, and she thought our boy looked really cute in it. Finally, the week came to an end and Kuroki only thought about going home to faceplant himself on the bed when Chihara-san called out to him. He noticed that she had been waiting for him every day so they could go home together. Sometimes she goes home with one of her friends, but since that friend is a social butterfly, Chihara-san can't always go back home with her. Even if he is her plan B, he feels weird that she chose him over her other friends. Suddenly, Chihara-san knelt in front of him and placed her hand on his stomach, which shocked our boy. Turns out she just wanted to know if he was hungry or not, and this puzzled Kuroki. But she figured that was natural because who wouldn't get hungry after classes? She then points to a convenience store and asks if he wants to go in. Kuroki then started imagining what kind of snack someone like Chihara-san would get and concluded it would be something like tall milk tea with lots of extra cream. But then Chihara-san's broke ass pulled out 100 yen, which was very anticlimactic. She usually buys candy with her money like an elementary school student, but today, she bought convenience store chicken. Chihara-san said it was crispy, well fried, and she wanted to know if he had tried it before, but he said he didn't. She then reveals that she usually doesn't eat meat as a snack, but when with friends, her cravings for meat get stronger, so she eats it with her friends. She then takes a nibble and Kuroki starts releasing his yogurt in the pants for some reason. Chihara-san then looked at him and asked if he had any napkins on him. He pulled one out from his pocket and she pointed towards her, which as usual, confused him. His brain took a while to understand until he realized she wanted him to wipe her lips. But that kind of situation made our boy extremely embarrassed, even if he were to do it for a family member. Since he was taking too long, she just grabbed his hand and wiped her lips with the napkin. Chihara-san looked at Kuroki with a faint smile and our boy wondered why she seemed happy about it. At the bookstore, a shoujo manga was trending and our boy Kuroki was looking for a manga that he remembered seeing in the corner of the magazine section. After a while, he finally got it and pulled it from the shelf to check if it was the latest volume. But then suddenly Chihara-san spawned out of nowhere and asked if he liked this manga. Our boy got startled since he didn't expect her to be here. Kuroki reveals that his younger sister had asked him to buy this manga for her. But when he asked Chihara-san what she was doing here, she just stood silent as if she forgot why she was here in the first place. But then she grabbed a manga which had a castle on it and Kuroki wondered if she was the type of person who buys all the volumes for reading at once. As they were walking outside, the interesting cover of the manga that Kuroki bought for his younger sister caught Chihara-san's attention and she asked about the plot. So he explained that it was about a girl who fights to become an idol and Chihara-san seemed to get it. She expressed her desire to read this particular manga and Kuroki informed her it was a story for elementary school students. At first, he was a bit skeptical of giving her the manga, but then he recalled her peculiar tastes and decided it might be right up her alley. Kuroki then handed over the manga to Chihara-san since his little sister would probably be bombarded with a ton of homework. She was very happy and thanked our boy, who is blushing in the background. From their individual perspectives, the two of them were exchanging mangas and as they walked home, both of them realized they were slowly getting closer to each other like best friends. But before they parted ways, Chihara-san gave Kuroki her manga and he thanked her for not letting him go empty-handed. When he opened the apartment door, his little sister came running towards him and asked if he got the manga she asked for. But when he opened the bag and pulled out the manga that Chihara-san gave him, her sister knelt down at the entrance, disappointed in her brother. Meanwhile, at Chihara-san's place, her father greeted her while she hummed a song. He found it odd and asked what was going on while she had the manga in her hand. Chihara-san then turned around and showed her father the manga about the punch-throwing girl, who then asked if he could read it later, but she instantly shut down his request. At Chihara-san's house, which was also a cafe, her father called her over for a second. Turns out he was going to send her for a side quest, as he handed her a bag of fruit and asked her to take it to their neighbor, Matsumoto-san. While she was busy looking inside the bag, her father asked if she knew that their neighbor got a new cat. Hearing this, she got fired up and was ready to accomplish this side quest with the energy of a main mission. Chihara-san then went to the city in her middle school uniform and passed by a small shop that sold toys for pets. She took a sneak peek and decided to buy one for the neighbor's cat. At the neighbor's house, she showed her the little gift she had bought for the kitty and handed over the fruit bag to the neighbor. She then invited Chihara-san inside the house and went to the kitchen to bring some tea along with sweets. But our girl was obsessed with seeing the cat and couldn't wait to see it, so she started looking for it. Suddenly she noticed a white cat looking at her and Chihara-san stared back at it with her signature 1,000-yard death stare. Her intense gaze scared the cat, so she threw a little toy to it, her attempt at being friendly. The cat placed its paw on the toy and Chihara-san crouched down to slowly approach her. But even the cat was freaking out by Chihara-san's intense gaze, proving it's not only humans that get intimidated by her. Unable to resist cuteness of the creature, Chihara-san opened her hoodie, placing it inside. That's when the neighbor returned with the feast and was left stunned. She noticed how the two of them get along really well and revealed that she got the cat yesterday, but it's very docile. Chihara-san stroked the cat, pointing out how warm and cute it is. Since she only got it yesterday, the neighbor hadn't yet chosen a name for the cat and asked Chihara-san if she had any suggestions. She lifted the animal and brought it close to her face and kept thinking about a certain individual. The following day at school, Chihara-san entered the classroom while humming and Kuroki's eyes followed her. She then greeted him with good morning and he was caught off guard since he is the one who always does that. He asked if something had happened and Chihara-san stepped closer with her phone to show him something. She then opened the phone gallery and showed him the white cat that her neighbor got 2 days ago. When our boy asked its name, she reveled it to be Kuro, as the cat reminded him of our boy Kuroki. At their school, a student arrived excitedly with a mysterious bag and Chinatsu, who was sitting beside Chihara-san, found the class pretty lively. She was curious about what they were up to and her friend thought those students were going to film a recent TikTok trend video. Chihara-san still didn't understand what she was talking about, so Chinatsu explained that they were going to make Russian cream. It's a kind of recipe where they mixed a mustard, wasabi, Tabasco sauce in a cream puff. Chihara-san then asked Chinatsu if she had ever done something like that, but she replied she preferred to enjoy her cream puffs. However, if she were to somehow participate in this trend, she would be happy if her crush ate one in her place and got explosive diarrhea. Chihara-san was left wondering how her friend thinks it fun, but she is afraid to eating and hurting her mouth. Suddenly a boy approached Kuroki who asked him to do the Russian cream puff trend with them. He seemed a bit reluctant and Chihara-san noticed the entire situation from a distance. The boy then explained the ingredients in the dumpling and Kuroki asked if they were going to put all of them at once. Meanwhile, the other students hoped to see Kuroki in pain because he never changed his default expression. Kuroki agreed and the students informed him that there were only 2 cream puffs left, but one of them was altered. Kuroki asked them if they were trolling him, but with their deadpan faces, they said no. As he was about to pick one of the cream puffs, Chihara-san stepped in and grabbed his arm, leaving the class stunned. She took one of the puffs and began munching on it while the students waited anxiously for her reaction. Nothing happened and Chihara-san started blushing as the cream puff was absolutely delicious. Kuroki then held the other cream puff in his hand and was sure this was the altered one. When Kuroki put the cream in his mouth, Chihara-san was expecting a kawaii reaction out of him. One of the students came up to him and asked if he was okay, and Kuroki calmly said that the altered cream puff didn't taste good since it had all the spicy ingredients, other than that he was fine. Besides that, he said he ate the altered dumplings so as not to waste food. Realizing how pure our boy is, the students apologized to him for the prank attempt. He then turned around as saw Chihara-san standing behind him like a ghost. While she asked how he felt, the entire class curiously wondered if they were going to kiss or not. When Kuroki told her that he alright, she seemed happy and gave him a kawaii smile. Then suddenly Chihara-san grabbed his right hand, pointing out that it was covered in sauce. But then she started exhibiting flame in response as she was allergic to one of the spices used in the Russian puff spice blend. On his day off from school, Kuroki was walking around the city and stumbled upon an alley full of restaurants that he had never been to. He stopped in front of a Chinese restaurant and decided to take a sneak peek. Since the restaurant was empty, he went in and took a seat, but suddenly, the place filled up with customers in no time. Kuroki then noticed that the people sitting around him were talking and concluded they knew each other. If that wasn't strange enough, he then noticed some people looking from a corporate company shaking hands with each other, so he concluded they were meeting in person for the first time. The waiter approached our boy and Kuroki ordered super spicy mapo tofu. Since the place was getting too crowded for an introvert like him, he decided to go home after finishing his meal. As he was waiting for his order, he noticed Chihara-san and the customers stood up to greet her. He was caught by surprise since Chihara-san isn't the type to visit restaurants on her own. She went to the counter to look at the menu and the customers followed her as if she were a celebrity. Chihara-san then decided to order one gyoza and the customers in unison repeated the same thing. Kuroki wanted to understand why people were copying her and suddenly everyone started clapping. He looked at them in disbelief and wondered if they were a part of Chihara-san's cult or something. At first, Kuroki wanted to go home after he was done eating, but that all changed with Chihara-san's presence and the curiosity was worth the risk. Chihara-san tied her hair while waiting for her order and the waiter placed the meal on the table in front of her. The customers watched patiently as if they were seeing some sort of a master working on its craft. She took a bit and munched on it for a bit, while the entire customer body was waiting for her review. Kuroki felt uncomfortable with how quiet the restaurant had gotten and someone pointed out this was Chihara-san's 23rd time exploring a famous restaurant. No wonder everyone seemed eager for her evaluation. She then looked at the people standing behind with her intimidating expression and broke down the dish from a technical standpoint as if she was ChatGPT for this type information. Since that moment, Kuroki felt empty as if this wasn't the Chihara-san he knew. Then someone asked what is her recommended way of eating gyoza and she went absolute ham on proper way of eating the dish. Kuroki couldn't believe his eyes and ears because of what he was witnessing. Meanwhile, the restaurant owner crying of happiness because the social media sensation Gyoza Paku Paku reviewed her restaurant. Who knew Chihara-san had clout like that? This was Corky's first time hearing about this and he had no idea that she even had a fan club. People asked her for pictures and our boy was surprised because she is getting a lot of attention despite being the most awkward one in the class. She never mentioned anything about it to him and no one at school seems to have any knowledge about it either. The next day at school, Kuroki asked Chihara-san about her favorite food, expecting gyoza to be the answer, but she told him it was soba noodles. A long weekend was coming and Kuroki started thinking about what he would do with 3 days off, eventually settling on the idea of sleeping and playing video games. But deep down he wanted to go out somewhere and wanted to invite someone with him. He thought he inviting Chihara-san but then immediately buried the idea because he didn't consider himself that close to her. Meanwhile, Chihara-san was staring at him with her usual 1,000-yard stare. Turns out she was discussing the exact same thing with Chinatsu during the lunch break. When her friend suggested she just go ahead and invite the person, she hesitated because her weaker communication skills are weaker than my knees. But her friend is smarter than she looks and figured out the person Chihara-san wants to invite isn't a girl. Her mind immediately concluded she wants to hang out with Kuroki, so in this case she can't afford to be rejected. Unable to contain her excitement, Chinatsu told her friend to come to her house before inviting that person. In the present, our boy was thinking about the holiday when suddenly he received a notification on his phone. Upon checking, he had received messages from Chihara-san asking him to meet her at the train station after school. He looked to the side and noticed she wasn't there anymore and wondered what she was trying to do. Later at the station, he waited as he was told but Chihara-san wasn't there. While waiting for her, Kirko reflected that lately he'd been following Chihara-san's commands a lot. But his train of thoughts went off the track when he saw Chihara-san all dressed up with cute bows in her hair, apologizing for being late. Our boy was too stunned to speak and with a dumb look on his face, he could only wonder why she was dressed up like that. He then complimented her in the most socially awkward way possible and told her finish her plans without him. He closed his eyes and started thinking about how their friendship started on the basis of a misunderstanding. He was lost in his thoughts and Chihara-san started to wonder what was wrong with him. She then poked him on the cheeks and this did the trick. Without even a hint of hesitation, she told our boy that she wants to see him on the days even when they don't have school. So she looked him in the eyes and asked if he was free this weekend. As usual, it was taking a while for his brain to process Chihara-san's words while she just kept staring at him. He couldn't tell if she was joking or being serious. In the end, Chihara-san invited our boy to hang out with her and he wondered if he was in an alternate timeline of his life. Then Chihara-san came up looking all kawaii and apologized for making him wait. As per the culture, he tried to be polite and said he only just arrived a moment ago. He had seen Chihara-san in casual clothes before, but this was something else and couldn't believe that he is going walk beside such a cutie pie. Kuroki was always overshadowed by others, so he didn't need to worry about his self-image while hanging out with her. To break the ice, he asked Chihara-san how she got there and she replied, by train. While exiting the station, Kuroki asked Chihara-san if she had a place in mind and the girl looked surprised, proving she totally had a destination in mind. They arrived at her favorite cat cafe, but it was close due to a scheduled health checkup. Chihara-san was feeling down and decided to take her somewhere else. They went to a cinema for a movie, but when they looked at the available seats, they were too far apart from each other. Kuroki was excited for the movie and said let's go, but he noticed depressed Chihara-san and clutched the situation by saying, to someplace else. Their last resort were restaurants and cafes, but since it was the weekend, the places were crowded with people like they were running a PS5 with Big Mac deal. As they were about to go somewhere else, Chihara-san suddenly grabbed Kuroki's shoulder. He asked what had happened and to make her day even worse, Chihara-san's shoe had come apart. They sat in the park and Kuroki told her wait for a second on the bench. Despite her expressionless face, anybody could tell Chihara-san was feeling sad. When Kuroki came back, she was gone and he noticed her shoes on the ground next to a slide house. To confirm she was in there, he shouted, "Are you there?" But in a meek voice, she just apologized to him. She felt guilty for not planning anything in advance and felt bad because this was probably a horrible day for him. But when Kuroki told her that it wasn't her fault and he hadn't done anything either, she softened a bit. He was really happy that she asked him to hang out with her and requested her to come out. She took the slide and came out like a kid. He showed her the new slippers he bought for her and they had a cat logo on them. He apologized if she didn't like them, but she thanked with the most kawaii smile that our boy had even seen. He thanked the Lord for the fact that she smiled and Chihara-san suggested they buy some strawberry sweets before heading home. It was the next week and their school life was going as per usual, but for some reason, our boy couldn't get Chihara-san's smile out of his head. Honestly, can anyone blame him? It was a different feeling for him and he felt as if they had returned from an unforgettable trip. But once again, Kuroki remembered Chihara-san's kawaii smile and wondered if he would ever see her smile like that again. But then he caught himself lacking and redirected his attention to the class. Even after school, he kept thinking about it and thought it was dream. When Chihara-san invited him to her place, he thought it was a dream as well and went with the flow. As they were walking, Kuroki wanted to ask about the weekend but was afraid that Chihara-san would think he is crazy. Even when they reached her home, he kept thinking it was dream and a really nice one at that. But then he snapped back to reality and asked where they were, so Chihara-san calmed him down, revealing it was her house. When Kuroki asked how he ended up here, Chihara-san revealed that she had invited him for some tea. He thanked her for the invitation and she told him it was her father's cafe, but he runs as a hobby and it was closed since he is out right now. He panicked a bit after hearing that and asked if it was okay for him to be here. Chihara-san calmed him down and started making coffee for him. Our boy was amazed when he saw her grinding the coffee beans and deduced that she learned it from her father. She poured the freshly brewed coffee in a porcelain cup and thanked him for patiently waiting. He picked up the cup and commented on how good its aroma is, but in reality, it was odorless. He thought it might be his stuffy nose and decided to taste the coffee. But when he took a sip, he started seeing crazy stuff and wondered if he has been transported to another world. He told Chihara-san that he is seeing otherworldly stuff after drinking the coffee and she thought it meant the coffee isn't good. But Kuroki didn't want to be rude, so he decided to keep on drinking and Chihara-san revealed that she made this coffee using her intuition. After he was done with the coffee, she sat right next to him and our boy started sweating from nervousness. While covering her mouth like a cat, Chihara-san revealed that she wants to hang out with him again because if she stopped there, she would feel lonely. Kuroki started blushing after hearing that and realized he isn't in a dream after all. After he went home, Chihara-san's father came back and she greeted him. When he asked about the coffee, Chihara-san revealed that her friend came over and she made it for him. When her father went for a little sip, he instantly spilled it out saying it was disgusting. We then see Kuroki using the bathroom of school's top floor because it's always empty and relaxing for some reason. He reflected that the only person he ran into while using this bathroom is Chihara-san. But then he turns around and finds a trio of upperclassmen who looked more like WWE wrestlers from the 1980s staring him down. When one of them asked if he was Kuroki, his immediate thought was to run for his life. But then a huge shadowy figure appeared behind them and called out our boy's name. Turns out our boy has friends and he was stunned when he saw his old friend Hibiya at the school. He seemed confused and asked who those macho-looking men were. But Hibiya confidently replied that he had defeated them with punches and kicks and Kuroki was like, "Bro, I wanted to know who they were, not how you defeated them." When our boy asked what he was doing here, Hibiya straight up told him that he wanted to play with him. Kuroki invited him to come to his classroom and Hibiya agreed, but he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was following them. When they entered the classroom, a handsome-looking boy was surrounded by girls who was thanking them for safely guiding him to Kuroki's classroom. It was another one of his friends and his name is Kazami. When he saw our boy, he walked over to greet him but Hibiya squished his face like a bodyguard and didn't let him get close to Kuroki. In the end, the three of them sat together at the back of the class and the students wondered if Kuroki was famous because he knows good-looking people. Chihara-san entered the room and surprised the student as well. The two boys didn't get along and it seemed like an unfortunate coincidence that they both decided to visit Kuroki on the same day. A girl from the class approached Kuroki from behind and asked if she should call the teacher, but he told to wait and only call the teacher if something physical happens. Hibiya went on the offensive and told Kazami that he was more of a friend to Kuroki than he was. But Kazami wasn't backing down and with his disingenuous expression said that he was delusional. To prove his point, Hibiya told him that he used to sleep on Kuroki's right side at daycare. But Kazami wasn't one to back down and reminded him that he slept on his left side. Our boy didn't know how to calm his friends down and could only watch them one-up each other. While all this was going on, Chihara-san seemed nervous and wanted to call out to Kuroki, but the entire class panicked when she finally tried. From the students' points of view, it was battle between two delinquents and a landmine girl for a socially unaware guy, making them wonder who really is he. The school bell rang and the fight for Kuroki's attention was so intense that not even King Solomon would know who to give the boy to. Meanwhile, Chihara-san was seeing all this and contacted her psychological support, asking her to suggest something more friendly than a sleepover, but she was left stunned when she replied with nothing at all. Suddenly, the teacher showed up furious wanting to know what was going on and ordered Chihara not to go back behind the curtains. A few days after the incident, Kuroki entered the classroom and wished his friends didn't stand out too much. He then placed his backpack on his desk and noticed that Chihara-san was already there. But when he looked at her, she was truly locked in and reading a vacation magazine similar to Nothing Beats a Jet 2 Holiday. He was surprised upon finding out that Chihara-san reads magazines like this and couldn't imagine her going to a vacation. She then looked at him and Kuroki awkwardly greeted her. Shun then asked our boy if he liked to stay in the country or go abroad and Kuroki didn't know what to answer that question. Ever since that incident with Kuroki's friends, Chihara-san had been in low spirits and was trying to get the top spot in Kuroki's friend list. From her point of view, since those boys have slept with Kuroki, their friendship with him is stronger than her and she wanted to change it. If somehow they had sleepover, her friendship with Kuroki would get stronger than those boys and she'll win the top spot in his friend list. When she told her plan to Chinatsu, she spat his drink on the floor. She then admitted to her reaction being very cliché and asked if she really wants to have a sleepover with a boy. After reviewing her friend's situation, Chinatsu realized that from Chihara-san's POV, the appearance of Kuroki's friends had put her friendship with him at risk. She then explained her motive and revealed that sleeping with Kuroki would make her his best friend. Chinatsu became curious and was trying to understand her friend's behavior and felt like her friend is going to do something over the top. Getting jealous of a friend's friend happens to girls all the time, and Chinatsu felt that's exactly what was happening with Chihara-san. She likes to see her friend doing reckless things, but she also wants to make sure that Chihara-san's plan goes smoothly. She told her friend that she shouldn't do childish things if she wanted to sleep with Kuroki. This information was like a bucket of cold water over Chihara-san's head, and she appeared devastated. Seeing this, Chinatsu got an idea and told her that the outdoor school was starting soon, and this gave Chihara-san hope.